keep it conversational.
What do you think, Will?
It's completely up to you. I reckon let's go a conversation.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll leave it with you.
I'll give you a sort of 1 minute intro to Portfolio Ventures. So we invest pre-seed to Series A, primarily focused on kind of fintech and B2B SaaS. We are a co-investor, so we don't need investment rounds. Typically do kind of 250 to 500k checks. And the real kind of like value that we bring is the network of our LPs. So our LP base is made up of tech founders and kind of C-level execs from industry. My business partner's called Will as well. We make the investment decisions, but to leverage that group to support you with hiring, fundraising, introductions to business, to new business and potential partners. So yeah, it'd be great to find out a bit more about what you're building. Yeah, if you could give me a kind of quick introduction on Communion, the product and the team, and we can go from there.
Thanks, Will. That's amazing, and it's cool that you guys are fintech focused. I'd love to hear about like what specifically in fintech is exciting to you these days, and maybe a little bit about how you think AI is going to affect fintech, and like how are you guys thinking about things?
Yes, so basically anything where there's inefficiencies or where things can be automated is where we like to focus. The main, which leads quite nicely onto your second question around AI. The biggest challenge we see at the moment is the risk, or how risk averse banks in particular, and any large financial institution is around AI, LLMs, sharing data, etc. So while there is, there's going to be, a big AI is going to have a massive impact across, like banking infrastructure, but also how things are sold, how banks sell to their customers, whether it's, B2B or B2C. I think the large sort of enterprise plays might take longer than people expect, just because of that risk aversion. I was talking to literally at football, my kid's football class on Saturday. He's head of data at AXA, the insurance company, and he's like, we're never ever going to use like ChatGPT. We're never going to be able to use internally, and everything's going to have to be on-prem. There's too much risk involved, and like from a big public company, I think a lot of startups need to be aware of that, and especially sales cycles. If you're raising capital for 2 years and you're selling to these big customers, it takes a long time. But yeah, it will happen, and the innovators will be the ones who work out, if you've got proprietary data sets or you've got tech that has some IP and you can reduce those procurement and sales cycles, they're the ones that will ultimately win. And we're seeing a couple of companies actually recently that use a tier one bank, for example, do a POC with them, build a product, iterate, and then go and sell to the challenger banks or tier 2 and tier 3s where the sales cycles are much shorter. But how we invest, we're pretty opportunistic. So we'll look at everything within the kind of fintech and SaaS space.
Amazing. I'd love to tell you a little bit about Communion. We are building the intelligent spend management platform specifically designed for growth teams. So it's not software for banks. It's the financial solution for the $600 billion that growth teams spend on customer acquisition every year, growing 5% year over year. And I know these are a little bit more American, but maybe you're familiar with like Brex or Ramp.
Know them well, yeah.
Awesome, right? So like they are they built the financial solutions plus purpose-driven AI native software designed for, and on their end, for paying bills, for employee expenses, for travel expenses, a $200 billion B2B expenses, basically a $200 billion a year market. And we're focused on the $600 billion a year that goes into customer acquisition channels, except for the spend management solutions that are available right now are like so far from the needs of these teams. And it has one of the most broken workflows that I've ever seen, actually. And what it comes down to is, I think when you're managing a budget, right? Regardless of that budget, you have a few simple needs. You want the best budgeting controls, you want the best reporting, you want the best visibility. Right now, these teams have none of those things because their spend is scattered across, a median of 9 channels using 6 to 12 different SaaS tools, and also fragmented across spend accounts across team, vertical, geography. The reports are still static Excel reports that you need an expensive connector tool to pull the data for. So if you remember back in the day before there was like software solutions, like you'd have to go into your bank statements and copy paste like line items to make an income statement, right? That is still like the state of the art for growth spend. And the team required to run this function right now is like, if you want to do this in-house, costs about $400,000 a year just to get started across media buying, digital, creative, data science. And some teams opt to go out of house and say, like, this is not our core competency, let's go to an agency. And they'll take 10% of your budget as a flat fee just to manage your budget for you. And so this is like it's something that we felt deeply ourselves, like a platform. Like, we knew this was a software problem with a software solution. We're like, where's that platform that automates some of your growth spend for you? But we were like, maybe this is like a startup problem or a scale up problem. Like, we don't have the right software tools. Maybe the enterprises have had this figured out. And then we spoke to the head of growth at DoorDash, and they're like, no, even though we're spending $100 million plus a year on customer acquisition and growth, we still just throw bodies at the problem and are manually adjusting bid budget strategy across our multiple channel partner dashboards. This is time consuming, suboptimal, and the tool that we really are looking for doesn't exist yet.
And so what's your kind of go-to-market ICP? Is it the DoorDashes of the world, or is it kind of smaller companies?
So that's a great question. We are currently working with more than 4,000 users from scale-ups to Fortune 500s, growing 20% month over month. And what really is the ICP is not so much about the industry you work in, but the title of like head of growth, head of performance, head of digital, head of marketing, where you have your growth motion figured out and you're spending a couple $100,000 to millions to tens of millions a month on customer acquisition through these expected channels. We're doing more than 70K in MRR with high ACV contracts and more than 100%, more than 120% net revenue retention. And our big kind of customers that we brought on recently, actually one that you might be interested in, was Hector introduced us to CarWow, which is like a European car buying platform. They're like a Series E stage scale up. They're, as we kind of build out our acquisition strategy, this is kind of the software that we are looking to. But besides that, on our end, we've like been working with like Universal Studios, Orlando, Hilton Experiences, Farfetch. And like the reason that these businesses all resonated was like, and we did onboardings, not just with like 1 or 2 like leaders on their team. We would bring on like 12, 26 people on an onboarding call with their entire team. And
nice.
I think what's interesting there, as well as on our GTM motion, is that we always had this feeling that like we would go to market with scale ups, brands, and agencies. They're managing on average something like, $100K to $20 million a month in spend. And we're like, it's easier to, like you mentioned, going to market with those like smaller, kind of more tech-friendly businesses. It's easier to get into the door with them. That growth is an existential need. That they have smaller teams with less experience. We always had this sneaking suspicion that enterprises feel the problem more acutely because they're spending more money across more channels, and their teams are siloed. Big teams are siloed across product, geography, and vertical, right? But we're like, how do we get into them? And that was really validated when PwC selected us for an enterprise partnership, where they selected us to be one of their vendors of choice, one of 8 companies, and the only seed stage company, really. Actually, the PwC UK office too. And they helped us get into businesses like Tiffany's, Dior, Farfetch, Deliveroo, Lloyd's, Unilever, and I think that we had the best client reception of any of the companies in their introductory cohort, specifically
Nice.
because we're really articulating that a solution that these high-level executive buyers have been thinking about for a while, but that software just hasn't been possible until today.
Thanks, that's super helpful, and congrats on the progress. Could you, give me a quick intro to the team, and then it'd be great to understand where you're at with the fundraising and plans for the next sort of 12 to 24 months.
Exactly, amazing. So a little bit about me is that I am a former Y Combinator founder, and before YC, I was working in trading at a platform called Fidessa or Ion Markets, where we were, responsible for the infrastructure that was processing hundreds of millions to billions in daily notional spend. And my co-founder, our fintech lead, was also my batchmate at YC. He was Princeton CS, and he previously launched a charge card. And so the two of us, along with our friend Neil, former Goldman Sachs and Balyasny hedge fund trader, Berkeley Eeks, we kind of have this trading finance kind of background. And along with a little bit of our teammates and early advisors, like investors from Segment and Anthropic, we have like this deep understanding of both go-to-market and customer acquisition workflows, of trading and financial infrastructure and performance, as well as cutting-edge AI and how that's going to be, especially like data-driven and exactly like you mentioned, risk. Using a customer's proprietary data in a risk-free way with self-hosted models to empower data-driven decision-making at scale, provide automations that these big teams are struggling to do right now with their brutally manual processes. I think we have a really unique set of insights that pulls together to build AI native SaaS designed for growth teams that pairs with the financial rails for the hundreds of millions to billions that they spend on customer acquisition.
Nice. And how much are you looking to raise?
We're raising 2.5, of which about 2 has been committed already.
Nice. From a lead, or is that kind of angels and follower fund type?
I think we could call it a lead. We're working with Altair, who is, I think they do a decent amount of European investing. You might be familiar with Jeeves, which is like a similar kind of card product, but that's on the business to business side. And we're working with Excel. We're working with Angel Invest Ventures, who's a big European angel group. And a bunch of angels, a lot of value add angels who are like former founders, or we're really love working with founders. So the founders of Segment, the founders of Palo Alto Networks, the founder of Monzo, Go Cardless, are all some of the angels that we made time and space for as well.
Nice. And sort of final question, what would be particularly value add from an investor at this round? Like what would be, what kind of profiles are you looking for?
We love working with investors who, one, like, I think it's really important that people understand and love both the product and the space. Like that's like the biggest thing about value alignment on a 10-year journey, I think, is like it's always nice when people are experienced with fintech, right? Because when you understand like interchange, like intuitively, after working in this space, like you're like, wait a minute, like these like other card products, like a business like Jeeves might be working with a spender who's spending like $20,000 to $50,000 a month, and that's like a Series B, D scale up, and that's a really good customer for them. And then like when it clicks for you that we're talking about people who are like spending $5 million, $7 million, $8 million a month without breaking a sweat, the size of the opportunity becomes really obvious. But like it takes someone who's kind of like familiar with the nuances of financial plumbing to kind of get that. And I think Hector has been awesome about introducing us to customers. And that's like the other thing is always like whenever we can get in front of businesses that are at the growth stage and say like, hey, you're spending a lot on customer acquisition. Let us put some automations in place, save your team some headaches. I think that the warm introductions go a long way. And those are the biggest things, I think, people to bounce our ideas off of, make sure that and especially if your like operator network includes people who are working on products similar to this, something we always find valuable is gut checks. Hey, like I'm thinking about doing this or working with this this service or trying to go through regulation in this way. And if somebody's just like, yeah, like I did that, do it this way instead.
Yeah.
that's going to be a headache. That always saves us some time. So those are always useful things for us.
Nice. Well, yeah, thanks a lot for your time. That's super helpful. And yeah, good luck with the race.
Awesome. Thanks. Thanks so much. I don't have to run at the 15. So if you've got like an extra second to give us any thoughts, feedback, suggestions, I'm here for a sec.
To be honest, it sounds like, yeah, you're building something super interesting.